God what you can do.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, members of the press. Good afternoon, our citizen change champions. May it please you to note that we have just concluded a very crucial and important meeting. Our Citizens National Assembly, which is the highest decision-making body in our movement, in the citizens movement. This Citizen National Assembly has been meeting. This is our 18th meeting. It meets every month, once every month, and therefore this meeting was basically an extraordinary meeting, which extraordinary meeting was supposed to deal with a number of emerging issues. I want to thank you for your indulgence. We're supposed to start earlier, but we had a lot of issues to ruminate over and decide on, and we've managed to come up with a number of resolutions that we wish to communicate to the people of Zimbabwe and to the world. As I indicated in the Citizen National Assembly, we have representatives from the 63 clusters in terms of our constitution, and these 63 clusters are represented by 2 leaders, the head and the deputy. So the members you see here present are those leaders from all the parts of our country, all the 4 corners of Zimbabwe. I know a lot of people have misunderstood and misinterpreted our eloquent articulation of who we are in ideology when we said we are a structuralist structure. What it simply means is that we will not allow our opponents to dictate to us, to reveal to them what our structure is. But we have a structure. We know our structure is an entity, and that structure has been working very well for us. It is the structure that managed to produce a presidential candidate. It is the structure that managed to produce parliamentary candidates, 210 of them, and also proportional representation, representatives, as well as senators. It is the same structure that produced almost 1,900 councillors across the whole country. That structure is the structure that made today, and is the structure that reviewed the developments in the country. The first issue we discussed and touched on is the deteriorating situation in the country, politically, socially, economically, particularly when one has regard to the trip and tour ahead across the whole country. I've gone across the country. The feedback I'm getting from the people of Zimbabwe, the citizens of Zimbabwe, is that they are generally agreed that the election was fundamentally flawed, that the election was bogus, that the election violated the constitution of Zimbabwe, that the election in the various provinces did not accord with the electoral laws of our country, and did also not align with the guidelines, protocols of SADC, the African Union, and global standards. And because of that, they resolved, and they've given me as the leader of the citizens the mandate to make sure that I use every platform, locally, nationally, and internationally, to share this view by the citizens. And they've indicated that they do agree that there was some kind of an elected leadership, but it's an elected leadership out of a contested and disputed election. Therefore, whatever we have is a caretaker authority. A caretaker authority in central government, a caretaker authority in parliament. Yes, we won a number of seats. In fact, we swept in all the urban areas. But that doesn't make the election legitimate. Those MPs who are CCC MPs and now Zimbabwe MPs are simply caretaker MPs together with the ZANU-PF one in parliament. So we have a caretaker parliament, we have a caretaker local authorities. The mayors, the councillors, they are caretaker because it's a disputed election until a valid election is held. So even Mr. Mnangagwa chooses to inaugurate himself 1,000,000 times or choose a cabinet a dozen times, he has a caretaker government that does not have the legitimacy of the people of Zimbabwe. And it is also an acknowledgement and recognition of what we have heard from the people, that there's a lot of victimization, persecution, human rights abuses, particularly targeting CCC candidates. Some have been incarcerated. A case in point is our member of parliament, who is behind bars right now, Makon Central. He was not even at the scene of the violence, where an alleged case of violence was reported, but he has been incarcerated. Clear classic case of victimization. A case of our MP for Chiundura, Chirumanzu South, Cheza, who has been victimized and incarcerated on trumped-up charges. Our polling agents who participated in the election, fraud election, have had their houses burned down. Some are being deprived of food, weaponization of food in the countryside. Some have been deprived of even the opportunity to even have water services in communities. They can't use certain boreholes in certain communities. Classic case of political victimization. I'm sure you read about some of our agents and those who were campaigning for us, who had to be made to pay, a fine of some goats for just campaigning for CCC. So we have all these victimization cases, including the issue of being denied inputs on account of having supported CCC. There are even people whose farms are being threatened to be taken just because they were seen to be associated with the CCC. One issue that tells you that even in a flawed election, we won emphatically the presidential election. We won emphatically the mayoral election. That's why we have 33 out of 34 in a flawed election. In a much more credible election where people then going to do better, 34 out of 30. We won emphatically, even in terms of parliamentarian candidates. Yes, you may say that we have 104, as has been declared by ZEC, but we have much more. And this is why there are cases that are raised for challenge, because certain things were not done in a proper manner. It is for this reason that Zimbabwean citizens and citizens across the whole country are demanding an immediate resolution of the legitimacy crisis. But how are we going to resolve the legitimacy crisis? To lead, you need the mandate. The mandate comes from a vote. That mandate is disputed. And therefore, there has to be a political settlement, a political dialogue, immediate, to be able to deal with the issues of a disputed election. And it is in this spirit that, mandated by the citizens and by the Citizen National Assembly, we have written to SADC, the SADC Secretariat, and for the SADC Chair and the heads of state, and we have communicated the same, to resolve the dispute and stalemate in Zimbabwe. We have copied ZANU-PF, because it takes two to tango. We have also reached out to ZANU-PF in their various organs to say we have to resolve the issue of a disputed election. Because even if you go by the declared disputed election, it's almost a half-half or 50-50, meaning to say that the sentiment in the country, in terms of the declared ZEC result, which is flawed, the sentiment is divided. You need the country to be in a conversation on the way forward around key reforms, politically, economically, and of course, constitutionally and legally. And even building bridges with the whole world. You can't build bridges with the whole world if there are no bridges amongst yourselves. So yes, isiNdebele city izandla ziyageza. We are one people as a country. Our duty is to unite the nation and make sure that we find each other as a people and find a common way forward to resolve the issues where we have a fundamental dispute. In fact, when we go into an election, it's already a dialogue. Because a ballot is a form of a dialogue. When you have Chamisa there, Mnangagwa there, on a ballot paper, it's a dialogue of the citizens. And the citizens must be able to give a mandate to the leader they want. So yes, dialogue is there, but it's half-hearted. Some would say, but look, why would you want that conversation? In the local authorities, the de facto government is CCC. In the central government, the de facto government, because of force, is ZANU-PF. So we have a shared government, which may not necessarily be an inclusive government. And that shared government can only function better for the citizens if there is a conversation on a unanimous position on the credibility and legitimacy of a government. So we have two governments, effectively. But local government is effectively government. So yes, CCC is government, ZANU-PF is government. CCC on account of support and mandate from the people, ZANU-PF on account of cohesive apparatus, force, and other such mechanisms they display and deploy. So yes, we are going to pursue that SADC route, but we also pursue the national route, dialogue at a national level. We ask for interlocutors that are unbiased to help us find each other. We've approached bishops, the church, to also help us. But beyond that, we also have within our democratic right to have a peaceful expression of our discontent at the appropriate time. So yes, we will mobilize, but it's not a CCC issue, it's a citizens issue. So we are engaging with other like-minded citizens from the churches, from the labor unions, from the students, from the women's groups, from the journalistic fraternity, from the professional groups, accountants, lawyers, everyone who feels business, everyone who feels that Zimbabwe must be one again, and Zimbabwe must be for everyone, and Zimbabwe must have a credible and legitimate government. We are going to engage, and we'll play our part to make sure that we peacefully mobilize and we peacefully express ourselves at the appropriate time. Of course, we are also asking for the church to pray for this country, because where we are going is going to be very difficult. Prayer helps, and prayer is going to change things as we do what has to be done. Number two, we also took note of the legitimate crisis spilling over to Parliament. The CCC restates, and this is the CCC you are seeing here. Any other person who masquerades or are impositors as CCC are violating the law. And we don't have time for tomfoolery, kindergartenism, and funny games. Stay away from CCC. Hands off CCC. This is a citizens' movement. Don't just wake up one day from the street in a drunken stupor. You say, no, I'm so and so. In this movement, we don't have the position of Secretary General. We have different roles and tasks. In this movement, we don't give each other positions. We give each other tasks. And I can tell you that the champions you see here are very clear, as we were clear when we elected our candidate. Nobody can just wake up and recall our candidate. In fact, it is a ZANU-PF scheme. The reason why ZANU-PF is using certain people, particularly who purport to be CCC, we are not even in our books as the membership register. Because we have a membership register. That's why we have citizen caucus across the world. That's why when we go into the provinces, we are able to meet leaders. We have our membership registers and records. These people don't even exist there, but they want to purport. And what is so much a circus and a national shame is that Advocate Mdenda, whom I respect as a learned colleague, would know better that at law, you don't just receive communication even from the mass and you announce it. Otherwise, Musengezi would have been allowed to recall Mr. Mdenda from being speaker. But we need to have clarity in terms of who should recall who. We have a party with a leadership, and that leadership is very clear. We know who is in charge of the structures, we know who is in charge of elections, we know who is in charge of communications, we know who is in charge of fundraising. That's why we're able to raise resources from the citizens. I must thank all the citizens for making us win under difficult circumstances. We're dealing with Zambia that was so well funded. But the citizens, you did well. You funded almost $250 million for the nomination. You funded our polling agents. We've been able to even give them a token of appreciation. Courtesy of you, the citizens. Thank you. And thank you for supporting your movement. So in the context of developments in Parliament, where we have seen illegal and unconstitutional recalls, we have restated the position and resolved as a Citizen National Assembly, and I'm the leader, that as a party, as a movement, we have not recalled a single MP. We are not abnormal. We have not gone bonkers. We can't recall without due process. To recall anybody, members have their rights in terms of natural justice principles. They need to be heard. At law, we talk of what is called out partem rule. You need to be heard. If you are to receive charges, for you to cease to be a member, because the Constitution is very clear. 2 tests have to be met. Number 1, have you ceased being a member? If you have ceased being a member, the party has verified that you have ceased being a member. It has to satisfy the second test as the party resolved to communicate to Parliament. That test has not been met. And that's why we are saying to the Honorable Speaker, correct your error. Correct your mistake. We are writing and we've resolved to write to the Speaker to correct that mistake. Not only are we asking for that mistake to be corrected, and we've given a time frame in our communication to the Speaker, we have also said the impositors, we have mandated the party to pursue legal route, to pursue political route, but also to go to the authorities, police included, to report a clear case of fraud, impersonation, and a person who is an impositor. We have not known this person. He has never been part of us in this structure, and he has no mandate to represent us. He has no mandate to even masquerade. In fact, we are a movement. We are not an individual. No individual has the right to recall anyone. Even as a movement, when we recall, there are processes. There's a citizen caucus making a report. There is our appeal process being done, and adjudication, and of course, due process being taken. But you know, for people who are not our members, they will move around and say there is no constitution, there is no structure. Fair enough, because they don't know who we are. And they don't know that the party has organs, that the party has various structures that are governing it. We can't just wake up and do what we are doing without a regulating mechanism, which is our own statute, and it's in good and proper shape. So yes, we are asking Parliament to restore those MPs that have been recalled. And we've also communicated to them that this National Assembly is going to write, by way of a resolution, to the Speaker to deal with those issues. But we also took note of the systematic targeting of the people of Matebelele. You know, yesterday, just before the election, it was the Bulawayo 12. They wanted to use courts to persecute them and to disqualify them. They failed, and all the 12 were voted for. Some imposter comes to say these people were imposed. The electorate have already made their determination on who they want to be a member of Parliament for Bulawayo. Who are you as an individual to say that those people were not elected legitimately? They got the highest number of votes because they are credibly and legitimately elected by the people in Bulawayo. But there is a formula to the madness. If you look at the constituents that have been targeted, these are constituents that had ZANU-PF big wigs or big shots who have money, particularly the gold mafia in Mavuku. You look at Country Park, Tuli. You look at Bulawayo and South, Modi. So they are trying to bring back ZANU-PF through the back door. ZANU-PF accept that even in a flawed election, you were flawed by the people of Bulawayo. They don't want it. So that issue of a systematic persecution and campaign against the people of Matabeleland since the 80s, we've taken note of it. And we can't allow the perpetuation of this. In fact, to dramatize how bizarre it has been, Dubeko Swanda, the MP of Binga, of the Tonga people, a loving Tonga people, had actually not been sworn in, but he was recalled. So they had to ask for a swearing in so that they recall him just 5 minutes after that. How do you disrespect a people? It is not the party that sponsored it, that has withdrawn him. It's just an individual who has just emerged from nowhere. So we want that issue to be resolved. But we have said, over and above this, we are also ordering all our deployees to Parliament and local authorities to disengage from Parliament and from Council. Until this issue is resolved. And when I say disengage, we have not said that they have withdrawn. They are disengaging, meaning to say that no business shall be transacted until remedy and justice is done through the mechanism that we have. In fact, we are putting on notice all key stakeholders in the country, including civil society, SADC, AU, the EU, and the international community, including the United Nations, that we have a constitutional crisis in Zimbabwe, and that we have a disputed election in Zimbabwe. And we are going to run a campaign diplomatically, politically, in a peaceful manner, in a constitutional manner, because there are remedies within the Constitution, and we are going to exhaust them. A lot of people are saying, no, you are too slow, you are not able to do this. No, take it easy. We know what we are doing. We understand the pulse of this nation. We know our influence. We know our capacity. Organizing and mobilizing is not one of our weaknesses. We have many, but I can tell you that that is not one of our weaknesses. We can organize so well and mobilize so well that we can even persuade ZANU-PF members to be part of this legitimate issue, because poverty knows no political party. In fact, any action, any peaceful expression of discontent must not be a partisan one. It must also reach out to ZANU-PF. I'm extending this invitation to people in ZANU-PF to come together. Come, let us reason together. You are also victims, because you must know that poverty does not ask for a political party card. Suffering does not know a party card. We all suffer and we are all suffering. School fees does not ask for a political party card. Medical fees never ask for a political party card. We all suffer, and for that reason, we must work together for everyone. We have also taken note of the issue of our friend, comrade, Job Sikala, Jacob Ngaruvume, and we have noted Honorable Sagandira, the MRP comrades, those who are incarcerated, the political prisoners. We are continuing apart from and beyond the measures we have put in place so far, including reaching out to the region and international partners. We are asking for an immediate release of our comrades, because we feel that they are not guilty. They must be granted bail, particularly for Job Sikala, who is not feeling well. So yes, we'll also pursue a number of measures in line with what we are pursuing to deal with the issue of the legitimacy crisis, to make sure that we deal with the issues that are obtaining in this country. Let me hasten to say, we are fortified and humbled by the support we have received from the people of Zimbabwe. Yes, the election was flawed, but there's no room for division, confusion, or other funny diversion. The key issue in Zimbabwe is how do we deal with the national issue of a disputed election. There is no dispute, there is no legitimate crisis in the CCC. The CCC is under able and effective, capable stewards at all levels. And we are proud of that. Doesn't matter how much they try to divide us. CCC is not MDC. CCC is not PDP. CCC is not all those other opposition political parties you have known. This is a citizens' movement with a different soul, a different trajectory, a different compass, and different hands. Touch not the CCC. I think. I want, if there are any questions, just to clarify, I was not going to take any questions, but I'm at liberty to take any questions on the issues, on the resolution, and to clarify the matters, I think. Bruce, I'll start with ZBC.
Thank you very much. You mentioned the issue of...
No,
you mentioned.
Okay. I've already done that. I know him very well. You know, I've known Bruce since he was a young man. So I respect it. Thanks, Bruce.
Okay, you mentioned the issue of dialogue with ZANU-PF and also the approach to church leaders to ensure that dialogue takes place. I want to understand the objective of this dialogue for a GNU or election rerun.
Well, look, when you engage, when you have a dialogue, unless if you wanted to say something.
No, I wanted to add something on that.
Sure.
That after mentioning dialogue, you also mentioned the issue of disengaging. So how are you going to achieve the two, engagement and disengaging?
In fact, disengaging is a form of dialogue. You are expressing dissatisfaction. It's a dialoguing mechanism. But just also to come to your issue directly, we are not coming with an answer that is prescriptive. We can't prescribe an answer. We have said we are prescribing the mechanism, and the mechanism is a political settlement. Let Zimbabweans find each other. This business of repeating, disputes around elections, you don't resolve it, you go to another election. You can say, let's wait for 2020, but guess what? We'll have another disputed election 2020. But between now and 2020, it's going to be fighting. No focus on the economy, focus on slogans. No focus on economics and feeding people. We are focusing on politics. That's dumb. Let's find each other, find permanent solutions. Right now, they're talking about by-elections. Look at the past 5 years. We had almost, 29 by-elections. We spent, over $30 million. Can you imagine if we had taken that 30 million to give it to our civil servants and to deploy it to our hospitals and to buy ambulances? Just a political decision that is... Why should you have by-elections when there's no need for an election? But even the issue of making sure that there's a proper election, we need a window to deal with the toxic environment, to deal with the institutions that are not properly constituted, including ZEC. ZEC must be disbanded. There must be a properly constituted independent electoral board with representatives from all the political parties. So yes, we are not coming forward with an answer. We have our answers, but that's why it is dialogue. We want to dialogue so that we produce a mechanism that transitions our nation to a consensus, finding each other, vision sharing. What is the trajectory for this nation? Where are we going as a people? How do we work together? Even if we don't want to work together, we are sharing the same bed. ZANU, CCC, we are sharing the same bed, and we are the dominant partners. This business of looking onto the wall, this one onto the wall, there won't be production. I didn't say reproduction, I said production. So yes, we have to find each other. Let's dialogue. In terms of what comes out of that dialogue, is to find each other. That is what modern people, even in Israel, where they are fighting with Hamas, there has to be dialogue. So instead of guns being put into motion, why don't we silence the gun and activate dialogue? Because even guns are a mechanism to dialogue. So let's dialogue before the guns. Let's dialogue before fighting. Why should we even put people on the streets just to embarrass each other and make sure that our country is in trouble? Let's dialogue. But if you are not willing, we'll have to use the mechanisms constitutionally and peacefully that are available unto our church. Thank you, Bruce. Yes?
Manga mchitaura nechirungu. Go to language as my name is Studio 7. Manga mchitaura nechirungu. Ndaba kuchimutsanangura muchidimbu neshona. Kuti pamati disengage business not nembo chireva kuti chi. Uye tikada kuti tsanangure zvakare nyaya yenhengo dzeparliament dzakadzimba. Kuti ndati matana matora uye kuti mutsanangure kuti nhaurano dzofanira kunge dzirimo munyika ndivanani vanofanira kunge vari munhaurirano nechinangwa chei.
Ndazvidzwa zvamataura but kwatova kutanga patsva. Asi muchidimbu tiri kuti ma-MP ari kunzi akadzingwa, haana kudzingwa zviri pamutemo. Uye speaker vakapuhwa information kana kuti umbowo usiriwo. Uye vakatora munhu akangobva kwaakabva. Dei tichitaura muchitauro chedu taiti vakangotora chidhura changobva kwachangobva chotonyora kuti zvakati. Zvino hazvisi pamutemo. Hatigoni kutora mashoko abva kuchidhura. Mashoko anofanira kubva kuboka rakaparticipate kana rakapinda musarudzo. Boka iro ranga rine mutungamiri. Mutungamiri ndiye uno uri kutaura. Vamwe vacho vamuri kuona ndo vanobva kumapazi kumaprovince akasiyana siyana. Vataura kuti semusangano hatina kumbotora danho iroro. Takutoona sokuti ZANU-PF ine chekuita nedanho iroro. Nokuti zvaitwa ZANU-PF ikaita chimbi isati yakamboonekwa. Zvepfimbi yagudo yekuti chingati yambotofurirwa yakutotorwa mashuku asati ganga ibvaita. Saka iyoyo ndo nyaya tiri kutaura kuti zvava zvemutsoro mugotsi matsuro hatidi zvinhu zvakadaro. Toda kuti zvinhu zviitwe nemazvo. Saka tinonyorera speaker kuti tigadzirise nyaya. Pakuti disengage tiri kuti vanoshanda vari muhurumende vanofanira kuti varambe vachitaura nevanhu munharaunda dzavari. Asi havasi kuzoenda kunzvimbo dzebasa kusvikira tati nyaya iyi yagadziriswa senzira yekurakidza kunyunyuta nekusafara nemabatirwo aitwa chinhu. Nokuti hatisi kuda kuti munyika muite kumbunyikidzwa kana kubatwa chibharo yatingati state capture yeparliament capture kana kubatwa chibharo kwedare reparliament nemapato. Hatidi izvozvo, toda kuti zvinhu zvifambe pachena. Saka ndo shoko ratiri kupa iroro tatoritsveta kuvatungamiri nenhungamiri dzose dziri pasi rose muno munyika. Nokuti tiri vatungamiri kunzvimbo dzakasiyana uye tinoteererwa pane zvatinenge tataura. Nyaya yamataura yokuti tingaita sei kugadzira nyaya yenyika. Nyika ndinogara ndichitaura nditi nyika yakafanana nezipi. Ine mapoka maviri, mativi maviri. Kutoti zipi ivharike inoda mativi maviri kuti abatane awirirane. Zvino zipi yeZimbabwe yakaruma. Saka toda kugadzirisa zipi kuti zvakakosha zvenyika zvisanyadzisira kune vanoona kune dzimwe nyika. Zvinhu zvedu zvifambe zvakanaka. Saka kuvaka nyika. We are nation builders, we are peace builders. We invest in peace. We invest in building the nation. We have no other country. We have seen it in Somalia. Tinozviona kunzvimbo dzakasiyana siyana. Kunana Syria kuti once maputsa nyika yenyu haivakiki nekukurumidza. Saka isu chedu kuvaka uye kukurumidza kuti vake. Vamwe vangati kupusa asi tinozviziva kuti mukunyarara ikoko tiri kuzama kuti dei nyika yedu yatadza kuenda kumawere. Nokuti kuzodzora nyika kumawere ibasa rako iwe nei. Ibasa redu harina ine kuti ZANU-PF itiri kusi ndiye mwana wese weZimbabwe. Apa teta paradza nokupunza upenyu. Ndo zvinopa muono wedu watiri kutaura. I thank you. My sister.
Remember Mchenje from the news.
Thank you.
When you say we did not recall members of parliament and that you have written to Advocate Mudenda to cure this mishap, Advocate Mudenda yesterday wrote that his ruling is final and cannot be contested. He further urged the CCC to approach courts if ever they needed that to be done properly.
He's a lawyer. He knows that the parliament can actually, is not a court, but can review. The speaker can review his position, especially if there is adducing of evidence that he has acted on a false and fraudulent document. This person is fraudulent. So therefore, the speaker has been given the correct information. If he's doubting who CCC is, we are here. We are ready to give more evidence to say this is CCC. There is no CCC outside this body, on earth or in heaven. Heaven has given us as the body on earth to preside over the issues of the CCC. So the MPs you have seen are a product of the careful deployment by this body. So yes, that's not necessarily correct. The speaker can correct his position. Of course, if he wants to take us to court, we have to make a consideration on the basis of the facts that are at play. But we'll make sure that we pursue every avenue to make sure that justice is done. We have no problems with people differing with us politically, but don't impose leadership on the CCC. Don't force us to say so and so is your leader. So and so. They tried it with the MDC. We will not allow it with the CCC. Thank you, Ruin.
Okay, thank you, President. Londo Rosindo from VOA Studio 7.
Thank you.
There are allegations that some of the people involved in the current recall are senior members of the CCC. Have you investigated this, and is there any action being taken? And secondly, are we likely going to see you withdraw in case you do not make it in court in terms of your application against this recall?
I said if there's no justice on our MPs, we have disengaged. But withdrawal is also on the cards. And even plunging the country into a deeper crisis, because we already have a constitutional crisis. But there's going to be a worse one if there is no justice on the issues that are at play. We can't allow the same tactic and the same trick to be used twice. We are the CCC, and that will not change. Doesn't matter what ZANU-PF would want to do, or all the shenanigans, the fuzz mechanisms, the plots and everything. The plots that are going to be put in place will not work against us. But Mlondolozi, you say they are senior members. I've said this time and time again. This movement has no hierarchy of senior or junior. This movement was only commenced on the 24th of January. 24th January, I announced to the world that we are commencing the CCC as a tabula rasa movement, starting on a clean slate. We are where we are now. 1 year down the line, we've managed to have 104 MPs. We've managed to field a presidential candidate who beats the incumbent. We've managed to have 33 out of 34 mayors across the whole country. And in a flawed election, in a proper election, we have 2/3 in parliament. We have the majority over 70% in terms of the vote. So we are not ashamed of the kind of work we have done, but we don't have the so-called senior members. In fact, there are other people who have ceased being active in the CCC on account of not discharging tasks and roles. It's not a position-based membership. It's tasks and roles. And do you also exist in our membership register? When you cease to also act in a manner where you execute your task, you also cease being a member. It's in our constitution. So some of the people you think are senior, they may be senior in age, but certainly not senior in the CCC. Yes, Yvonne?
Thank you,
I
Yvonne.
think I'm about to run up. Maybe I'll come to Leo.
Yvonne Muchaka from Zimbabwe Daily.
You know, I know most of you because, you know, I was spokesperson for a long time.
Yeah.
So I know most of you, and I know some champions may actually be surprised how I know these names. Thank you.
My question is, you've spoken of going back to SADC. How much confidence does the CCC have in the ability of SADC and other regional bodies to intervene in the crisis of Zimbabwe?
Well, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. SADC has done it in the past. They've been an adjudicator. They've assisted us as a people to find each other, the GPA. And we are simply saying, SADC, because you observed the election, we are not telling you something new. You also observed the election that you saw, and your report, your observer mission report, indicates that there were problems, fundamental problems. And because of that, help us to find each other so that we resolve the issues. It doesn't kill to dialogue. In any event in parliament, it's already a dialogue. In the local authorities, it's already a dialogue. I'm sure here in Harare we have 2 members or one from ZANU-PF in the local authority. There's already a dialogue. And we've never abused them because they're a minority. We realize that we are a government, but we also have opposition. ZANU is the opposition in Iran, even in a flawed election. Perhaps they will improve their fortunes if it is a credible election. So even in our caretaker authority, a local authority, they're in opposition. But there has to be dialogue. So dialogue is the natural disposition of human existence. You can't be human and not dialogue. Even birds, animals can dialogue and must dialogue. So we must dialogue to find our common answers. This fight, back and forth doesn't help. Look at the past 5 years. They gave money to MDCT. A lot of the money was spent on private issues and personal issues. No investment to the country. But the political party's finance was actually abused. Because it must go to a party that has been allocated the responsibility by the people of Zimbabwe. In this case, it is the CCC. Any attempt to do all these funny things, because I was told that ZANU-PF were saying will not give money to CCC. It's not ZANU-PF that gives money. It is the citizens themselves who have already given money to the CCC. It is the taxpayers who have already given money in a flawed election. And that money is supposed to play a particular role. So any deviation from that is a violation of the Constitution of Zimbabwe and cannot be accepted or entertained.
Okay,
Leo, Nicholas, and lastly my brother.
Thank you, Leo from newsblogger.com. ZEC delayed delivery of voting material on 23 August. It's on the record. Election observer missions have reported this. And then, much recently, a letter you wrote to the Speaker of Parliament, Ramtenda, was ignored. He chose to read instead Shabamu's letter. Will ZANU-PF not ignore this disengagement and continue with whatever it's supposed to do in Parliament and councils? And if that happens, what next?
Well, they can't. We are the government in the local authority. We call the shots there. Unfortunately, they can't resort to commissions because at law, they can't do commissions anymore. They can also call for a by-election because there's no by-election. There's no vacancy. And even if you try to create a false vacancy using bogus people, you have triggered a constitutional crisis. We have a political route to pursue. We will not allow people who are not elected by the people to abuse people. In any event, why do you want to trigger a by-election where there's no legitimate basis for that by-election? It's a cost to the taxpayer, it's a cost to the country. Why don't you divert and allocate those resources to hospitals, to ambulances, to our civil servants, to our soldiers, to our police? They need to be supported. We have money. If we have money to do those things, unnecessary and useless, wrong political decisions must not be allowed to prejudice the taxpayer.
Thank you very much, President Johnson. Quick one. Do you have a time frame for this disengagement?
Indeed, we have said 14 days to have this issue resolved. Beyond the 14 days is now the political option, and we must be able to then deal with the issues. Don't worry about time. I hear people saying, no, we had an election on the 23rd of August. This is too late. People are forgetting. No. You don't know. I've been across the whole country. People are charged. The mood is electric across the whole country. People are raring to go. In fact, we're actually saying, hold back. We must be able to find each other. And because they trust us, we are using that goodwill to explore the window of opportunity to dialogue and find each other. Doesn't mean that we are imbeciles. Peace is normally the weapon of the strong, whereas violence is the default setting and the DNA of the weak. Thank you, friends. Last, my brother.
We have continuously talked about the issue of dialogue, but on the recent warfare's press, ZANU-PF spokesperson Christopher Mtranga said that if you want dialogue with President Emerson Mnangagwa, you have to join Poland. So are you going to join Poland?
Well, look, is Poland still there? we are not in the business of joining ghosts. We are not in the business of going onto platforms that are not credible platforms. Poland was there for the past 5 years. Can you show me one result other than making sure that the political leaders are given accommodation in hotels and are given vehicles? No, we're not interested in that. We are not the pioneer column. We are not motivated by trinkets and trappings of power. And I've listened to people in ZANU-PF saying, no, we withdraw benefits for the MPs. Our MPs are not there for the benefits. They are there to serve and not to be served. They are not there as an employment. They are there as a deployment. And they are not motivated by the mercenary zeal. They are moved by the missionary zeal to serve the people of Zimbabwe and to cause transformation in communities and to bring change. We are not joking, and we want those things to be resolved. So yes, anybody can say whatever they want. Those are their views. That's why we are 15 million people.
But if it comes back, are you going to join?
But why would we join? I've already told you that Pollard is not a platform where we would engage. We will engage with ZANU-PF, but at a credible, in a credible environment, at a credible level. We will not be part of Pollard. We've said that before. Doesn't matter if they want, they can go and Pollard with whoever. But resolving the issues of the country is about resolving the fundamental question. You know, we are ready to go out of the country, talk to, because our voice can be heard and is heard. We are ready to say, help us to help ourselves on the following issues, because we found each other on the critical national question. But we can't have a country where one person behaves like a bull in a china shop. You just do as you wish. You are a gangster. All of us are just dwarfs. No, 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 no. This country belongs to all of us. We don't have a bigger brother or a junior brother. We are brothers, equal sisters. And as a people, we need to be together. And that's why we are here to say let's dialogue, because we believe we must give dialogue a chance. God bless Zimbabwe. God bless you. Thank you very much.